Right?
The $10 million, I'm sorry, 10 billion
All right,
round number.
let's preserve conversation for on air. Give Jared a minute to do an intro.
Hello,
and then
everyone.
We can get into it.
Yeah, I'm still.
Let's go.
I'm still gathering. I'm sorry. I just want to gather some, just at least one more photo, if you don't mind, for something today. So.
Too late. We're live.
Oh, okay. Well, what's cool about doing it live is that we are indeed doing it live. And I don't. Are we actually doing it live or not? I don't. Are you messing with me, Dada? Or?
Yeah.
Okay.
We're live.
Nice. We really are live. Okay. So it's very good with everything today. Well, everybody, hello and welcome to your weekly dose of tomorrow. So glad to have you all here with us today on the final day of March. Yes, unfortunately, we did not get to do the show on April 1st, which bums me out.
It's April 1st here. I can just lie for the next 2 hours.
That's
you can do nothing about it.
Yeah, that's true. In fact, we can't tell you whether it is or isn't lies at any given time with that there. So,
April Fool's works.
Doing that, yeah. So as you could hear, we've got Ryan, who may or may not be a real person. I can't confirm nor deny that. It's April Fool's Day, right? So I can't do that. In addition to that, we also have Dada over in our control room.
Howdy.
With you there. And then there's me, Jared, of course, regular host here. And we have a delightful friend of the show and one of our fans of the show who pinged us and was like, yeah, well, come on, do this. And we've got Dolly juggling lessons. So if you've ever watched on YouTube, probably seen him in the chat, I'm sure.
In the chat.
With good questions. And here we are. We're going to be talking a little bit of space today. Just chatting around like we always do with each other, you know? So I think to kind of get it started, Ryan, you always seem to be the one that starts us off. So why don't I go ahead and hand off the start of the show to you? And let's see what happens.
Well, let's start off with a big topic that will keep the viewer attention up. Starship. Everyone loves Starship. It's been 2 weeks out for the last however many years. Could it actually be 2 weeks out this time? They're doing stuff. They're actually doing stuff, which is brilliant. Like you wouldn't think it, but they're actually doing stuff. And apparently they're getting ready to. They've stacked the booster. They're getting ready to stack the ship. Is the launch 2 weeks out? Yes. Well, I guess the only way to find out is to wait and see. But it's promising. It's the most promising it's been since testing has began in 2019.
I like Eka in our chat room who's saying it's actually 3 weeks out. It's not 2 weeks out. So maybe we're just going to start moving the amount of weeks to the right as well and start increasing them. So, so very exciting.
It's N weeks out plus one.
N weeks. That's true. Or should it be ELON weeks out plus one? So something like that.
Well, that's the invisible factor right there. It keeps moving it, right?
Yes. That's very true. Actually, Stephen Thomas was just saying 2 Elon weeks. Which is how that goes. And then also I like Scott Heron in our chat saying ask the FAA as well, because it's kind of how it goes.
They don't know.
Yeah, frankly at this point I don't think anybody knows. I don't even think I've given up on trying to figure that out. Once, I will be convinced that Starship is going to launch when it is released and it leaves the clamps. So until then I don't believe it. So
I'd really like to know something a little closer, like an FAA launch license. That would make me much more excited. If I heard one of those. Yeah,
and typically, we'll get those at least a couple weeks before the actual launch. Yeah. So, and I haven't seen anything at all out there for that. So.
And then we're going to get all the people, the Ellies, the Tim Dodds, everybody running off to Starship, Starbase. Sorry.
Yeah. Well, I guess once you see all of them descending on Starbase, that might be a good indicator that maybe we really are. Maybe this is starting to get a little bit real here.
They're the ones paying attention.
Do you think people did that back in the '60s with the Saturn V, where they were like, "Well, I'm not going to buy it until Walter Cronkite is at the Cape." So maybe that's kind of how it was. we'll be doing it. So,
and I wonder if the strategies they use now, the strategies they use then would even be applicable now. Things are moving so much faster.
Oh yeah, I think just with the way we handle information nowadays, it's just so much quicker.
Also, the pace of change, the pace of iteration testing and moving forward. Could I have imagined Saturn V like waiting for a launch license in the same month it's planning to? No.
I don't think so. Also, I don't think they were really worried about that at that time either.
That's true. A completely different launch license requirement setup. Completely different.
Yeah.
And that's the tweet that was.
Yeah. I like Loopy here, which is that it's like you only know a hurricane is real when Jim Cantori shows up in your town. So, yeah. So that's pretty good. So thank you, Loopy, for that one there. So yeah, we're still waiting on Starship with that. I guess whenever we're like the closest that we possibly can be to a concrete date, or as I think the date will be a little more like wet concrete. But once we get close enough to it, I think it would be
destroyed concrete.
Oh no! Don't say that! Don't say that! Don't say that! Oh no! Why did you do that?
It doesn't work that night.
Yeah,
it's all right.
Ryan, how could you? Ryan, how could you? How could you say something such as that? So, so what we're gonna do, I think what we should do is get the. I don't want to say get bets, but let's all like take our takes, I guess, on what we're going to be doing with it. But when we get once things are a little more wet concrete, with that there, so very very cool with that. So. Yes.
Is this the question of when we think it's going to happen?
Yes.
Oh.
Yeah.
Oh. Okay.
Yeah, and then I think we should also include. Allison basically nailing it right there as the chat room starts to go really, really fast, which is Starship Bingo. So, yes, and Haravail, I see that. I'm not going to push that. Thanks for that in the chat room there. I appreciate it. So whenever we get there, we should definitely have that about when we think it's going to launch, and then we should also have it as to how far we think it's going to get in flight as well.
Oh, okay.
So, but let's handle that, a little bit about. Oh, Loopy's actually throwing one down here, which is I have a controversial take. When Starship flies, I will not really care one iota about it.
Oh my!
Ooh.
I'm interested. What qualifies a particular launch as impactful? Obviously, Starship's not going to be taking important payloads the first time.
Yes. Yeah, it will be vehicle essentially.
Yeah.
So just essentially, working the bugs out of the vehicle.
Yeah,
so.
It's a bit like the Relativity 1 thing lately. It's such a milestone to cross. It doesn't matter that they didn't reach the ideal finish line. The progress they made was so important to me.
Yeah, and
to my concerns.
Yeah, and with Relativity, it was a really big question mark too as to whether these 3D printed structures could actually handle the loads. Right, that was the big question everybody wanted, and they answered the big question emphatically, which is yes. Yes. They absolutely can. Yeah. They're just as capable as actual, traditionally manufactured artisanal rockets, I guess is how I would describe it. So, so it's gonna be pretty cool when that happens.
Is this where we start talking about the fringes of separating the art from the artist?
Steam versus STEM. That's a whole different conversation.
Who is the artist involved in this, if I may ask?
The Twitter god.
Oh, well, I've never really thought too much about the Twitter god being involved too much, because there have been significantly more people who have made more decisions than the Twitter god has.
But it's still labeled as his.
Oh, it is absolutely labeled as his. So, and at the same time, I can call my car mine. That's my car. but at the same time, I didn't build it. So people who have the know-how and the knowledge built it, designed it, and made it work so then I can, enjoy it.
I agree, but I think the association is still there.
So
It is. And then, Robert's got a really good point in the chat room, which is that Gwen is the real one. I would also say Tom Mueller as well is entirely overlooked in the work that he has done. And also people like John Innsbrucker, and just there's a whole host of characters behind the scenes that are not that I think could be elevated significantly and would be much better. I don't want to call it role models, but much better people to look towards in terms of a future like that.
So how big is Company X? Is this like 10,000, 20,000, 30,000 people?
Let's see. Let's ask you the internet. So that's a great question, Dolly. That's a good one.
I personally am sort of biased in favor of Elon, so I want to give him 2 or 3 times as much credit as anybody else in the company. No, I'm kidding. But maybe more than the average.
Okay, let's see.
How many people?
Wow, so almost 10,000 employees, 9,500 employees. So, and also, I just want to point this out too, which it says that apparently due to with the statistics that are right here, 86% are men, 14% are women, and I just want to say that 14% who are women. That sounds very low, but actually for aerospace, that's really high.
Good.
So that's. Good job, SpaceX.
Good.
Keep leading on that front with that there.
Trend.
So,
Positive trend.
Yeah, that's a really nice one to see there because usually it is single digits in terms of the amount of women that are involved in an aerospace company. I like to see that, and let's make that number a little bit bigger with that there. So, yeah, very, very cool. All right.
So I'm going to split my credit 10,000 ways and give Elon 4 shares.
Okay, sounds good.
And I'm going to give Gwen 5. Okay. Keep going.
I feel like Gwen has been. Gwen is the sauce that makes SpaceX work. So
I'm a huge fan.
She had to sell.
Talk to me enough. I don't get to hear from her.
She had to work She really worked the business side of everything at SpaceX supremely well. Still does to this day, right? Because being COO and everything like that. So yeah. So again, yeah. So that's how this goes. So yes. So. Yeah, and also as Pampalek is putting in our chat room, which is that Chris G from NASA Spaceflight has joined SpaceX. Congrats, Chris. Good job on that. Hopefully we're going to see you soon. I'm not sure what position he got. I think he was on some sort of communications team at SpaceX. But
I heard the words
he put it in his bio.
Communications.
Oh, internal communications.
And I don't know what that means.
That means you use your inside voice.
Yeah, that means I speak to myself I use my inner monologue in order to make this all happen. I will walk around,
whatever that means.
I walk around SpaceX doing the looking to the camera in the office pose all the time. But in all seriousness, congrats.
Breaking the fourth wall.
Yeah, essentially. Yeah, now we've turned SpaceX into a Mel Brooks movie.
Sure.
But in all seriousness, Chris G, congrats on making it to SpaceX. And I mean, already NASA Spaceflight is like one of my favorite sites to go to. So I'm
every day.
So sad. But also, SpaceX will use Chris very, very well. So very, very excited about that. So Chris, call us up. We're gonna work on that real quick with that. All right, Ryan, do we have anything else?
Well, there's the big overarching story of the week, I'd say, that kind of started to drop over the last couple of days. Depends how far down that hole we want to go.
Yeah, I think we're going to have to go as far as possible down this hole, unfortunately. So, but yeah, let's talk about it.
Yeah. So, where do we start, really? Because the financial issues have been kind of obvious for the last few months at this point. the lack of launching has certainly not helped Virgin Orbit. Consistent investment from the Virgin Group has indicated that the revenue was not flowing as the company would have wanted, and unfortunately, the bank account has ran out. So, yeah.
Yeah, and I believe last week we were talking about a buyer or an investor coming in and injecting $200 million into the company, and I think we were talking about we've never heard of this person, and like we have no idea who this person is, and like they may be entirely new to spaceflight and all these other things, and it turns out that deal did not end up going through. So, so unfortunately, it does sound like Virgin Orbit has essentially gone under. So, which is sad, because it's in aerospace, there are a very large number of corpses littered around the pedestal of success, in that we always hear about the successes, we never hear about the failures. And man, there are the history of aerospace, like I said, there's just so many it's but that's how it goes.
I'm not very well informed. I thought that VO was really the next up from behind Rocket Labs, as far as what I thought, credibility for the future, potential, and that kind of thing. And I think they still could be. Obviously, the skill, the capability of the teams, all there. And
Pampalak is saying that I would expect Galactic and not Orbit to be the one that went under. And I really think that we're going to have to... I think this is going to take some time for all of the details to come out as to what was specifically occurring. You can talk about... you could talk about whatever you want right now, at least in terms of why we think Virgin Orbit failed, but it's almost opinion and conjecture at the moment. So at least for me personally, I'm not going to end up doing that.
I know exactly why they failed. There's no question. They ran out of money.
Yes, but the question is why? Right. So, because usually if you're a business, you try to make sure that you've got stuff on lock, but again, so we'll find out. So
personally, I'm really interested to see what kind of if we'll ever know what kind of communications were going on with Virgin Orbit and the Civil Aviation Authority here in the UK, because Virgin Orbit obviously must have heard something from the CAA to decide to fly out Cosmic Girl, the rocket, all of the kit, all of the teams out in October or November or whatever, for them not to be approved for 3 months and launching in January. So Virgin Orbit's year essentially got shrunk by 25%. And of course they had the failure, so then they couldn't start launching out of Mojave again. So obviously there's no official confirmation in there or anything, but I'm interested to see how that affected the financials of the company, because they wouldn't have flown out if they knew they couldn't launch.
Yeah, and actually the Launchpad is saying in our chat room that if the last launch was successful, do you think that we would still be here talking about a Virgin Orbit having gone under? So, I think
they could have got another one out of Mojave, having absolutely no idea how any of this works, but theoretically they could have got another one out of Mojave. I'd assume.
Yeah, and I mean we're kind of it's just I mean there's so many variables involved in this one here, and I think that's interesting. You bring up a really interesting and a very important point there, Ryan, about the fact that once Virgin Orbit got to the UK, things just kind of stalled out on that front with it. Man, it's just very, very tough. It's always breaks my heart because I want every aerospace company to work, right? Because I feel like the more we have, the better, because more access is better. More better's more better.
More better is more better.
In the
More
end
competition
of the day.
makes better, cheaper, longer, faster.
Typically, yeah, it should, and we have seen that happen with the proliferation of launch capability in multiple private companies now. It really is one of those things that, like, I just was not expecting Virgin Orbit to be one of the first to go under.
Yeah.
So there's several other companies that I won't name right offhand, but there's a multitude that I can think of with it there.
And the Launchpad has another good point that last year Virgin Orbit did order 2 new aircraft. Well, new aircraft, I believe they were still older 747, but they were purchasing additional aircraft to join the fleet. They were going to go out of Europe, Poland, Japan, Australia, maybe somewhere around there, I think. Struggling to recall, but I definitely know there were deals around the Southeast Asia Pacific region. The cadence was going to be there, but they just couldn't get to that point.
Yeah, and the cadence is everything. That's where my thing just blew up on me here in the front. The cadence is
music.
Yeah, I was gonna say I don't know why that popped up all of a sudden, but cadence is everything in spaceflight. If you want to get that money, that's how you do it, right? That's how you get the cash flow, and dollar bills, all cash rules everything around me. So it's super important to get that cadence up, and if you get stuck on the ground, kind of inhibits your cadence, right? So that could be a little bit of a problem with that. In fact, Neuralink in our chat room says that Virgin Orbit did talk about that getting that license in the UK was extremely painful. It literally cost them more to get all the permissions needed than what their customers paid for the launch. I hadn't heard that, but if that is true, holy moly, that's that is unbelievable that would happen. And it also now entirely makes sense to me why England would have been the only country in the world that started a space program, got to space, and then said, nah, we're done, and then canceled their space program. Wow. That is, holy moly. If that's true, and I don't know anywhere that I could confirm something like that at, wow, that would, I mean, I just haven't seen that anywhere. If somebody's got a link to it, I would absolutely love to see it there. Also, Arvale, really good point, which is that I'm honestly surprised that the Department of Defense didn't step in. They seem like ones who might find good value in air launch. And yeah, with that rapid capability to launch, especially launching from anywhere that you could take the equipment to. Yep. So
any latitude and over places where you couldn't tell it was launched, maybe.
Yeah. So that's absolutely.
Go out over the graveyard of where the satellites land in South Pacific and launch from there. Who's going to see?
Yeah. And Maddie, I also bringing a really good point up too, which is that losing Virgin Orbit is worse than losing a launch provider. This is the world losing a functional, unique launch method. We had extra reasons to want success. Yeah, and this was the first. This was the first air-launched liquid propellant rocket, so that ever successfully flew. Yeah. So, I mean, lots of you in the chat room are mentioning Pegasus, which is a solid fuel vehicle, something like that. So, with that. Also, Andy here saying, Jared, did you just say England when you meant the UK again? I guess. So, yeah. Oh, boy.
I mean, Cornwall's in England. You're correct either way. I'll throw you a safety net out there.
Okay, thanks. And the launch pad is saying, on more positive, who will now have the opportunity to launch out of Spaceport Cornwall. Any guesses?
Well, I know that Aer Lingus fly to Dublin. That's pretty much about as far as you can get from Spaceport Cornwall at the moment.
Yeah, I gotta say.
There's not really anyone else going to be launching out of there. Dream Chaser, however, has been proposed. Newquay has been proposed as a landing site for Dream Chaser, but Dream Chaser is still, in my opinion, at least a year out from launching, let alone needing to land at different places. There's not really, no one else is air launching. The only other air launching rocket that is still technically, I'd say theoretically in service is Pegasus XL, because it hasn't been cancelled, I don't think. It still exists, but it's not a scalable kind of franchise that Northrop Grumman is dependent on.
Am I correct? Spaceport Cornwall is a horizontal launch facility only, right? It's a runway.
Yeah, it's basically a regional airport.
Okay.
That they put some stuff out on an apron and then called it a spaceport. They built a hangar as well. That's pretty much it.
Is it big enough for the Rock? The
wrestler?
ROC, the big
Stratolaunch is
Stratolaunch.
Yeah,
it's like the Virgin Orbit thing, but
no, it's not.
It's not big enough for that. Okay. All right. So I guess the only
even if it was, you need to get that across the Atlantic first, and that wouldn't be an easy feat.
It was barely big enough for a 747.
Yeah. Okay. Thank you,
Jared. You lit the Rock. Can you smell what the Rock is launching?
Oh no! Here comes the chat room with everything.
I'm not sure it's big enough for Dwayne Johnson, because I flew on a couple of flights into Newquay and it was the planes were barely big enough for me.
Oh man, I've never met The Rock, so I cannot speak to that. So,
I'd much rather meet the airplane personally.
Yeah, I mean, I'm pretty cool with doing both. Standard M. By the way, Standard M, thank you for just becoming a member. Super appreciate it. With that, in our chat room is saying Dwayne Johnson could say Virgin Orbit. So
yeah, anybody got an extra couple $100 million?
Yeah, if anybody's got a couple extra $100 million, I can.
I said they should have just done a GoFundMe. Or we just get every single subscriber of tomorrow to donate $5,000. I mean, either or. One of them will work.
Yeah. I mean...
That's what we're going to charge for this episode?
Yes.
Jeez.
If you're watching right now, guess what? We're siphoning the money away from you as you speak, or as we speak. By the way, hi, Jamie. Jamie's watching. Hello. Oh, man, we were somewhere and my brain just, crashed right now. Welcome to tomorrow, everybody.
Well, the launch pad says that they're out, so unfortunately that's $5,000 gets to Virgin Orbit.
I was going to say, I think there was a Formula One team that, in the last race of the season at Abu Dhabi or whatever they were calling it nowadays, they crowdfunded their attendance for that weekend, and everybody had the little name on the car for it, if I recall correctly.
Yeah, there was a pub from somewhere in the south of England that managed to get their pub logo on the Caterham F1 car for the Abu Dhabi Grand Prix in 2014 or something, because they contributed to the crowdfund. It was brilliant.
And that Caterham from 2014, is that the one that I can't show to anyone who's under 18, because we remember Formula One in that time
because of the
period.
Interesting nose aerodynamics.
Yes. So if you're wondering what that's all about, we'll talk about that in our members only stream afterwards, which if you'd like to become a member, you could go to youtube.com/TMRO/join, and if you do that today, you'll be able to get in immediately. It is immediate for you to do that. Don't forget to comment, subscribe as well. So there you go. Keeping that going there. So unfortunately, Virgin Orbit sounds like the bells are ringing for Virgin Orbit. So its days are numbered. Here's a neat story. Standard M is talking about, which is that Artemis 2, the crew for it is going to be announced on Tuesday.
Excellent.
So I'm super looking forward to it.
Yes.
I think they said 3 Americans and 1 Canadian. So something like that. So, So super excited about that. So I'm not really going to say anything about it because I don't know who it is. So
we know one thing.
What?
It'll be a woman stepping down first.
Yeah. So the first woman
Uh-huh.
and the next man to walk on the moon. So
Yep.
super excited about that as well. So I'm pumped. Pumped about it. Saturday, I was saying it's gonna be 2 Canadian arms. Oh, that's great. That's great. Oh,
And
I
it's
love
on
that.
3 and 4.
Yeah. Launchpad, we're starting to get a little facetious here now. Instead of Shark Tank, we could use Spaceport Cornwall hangar to shoot something hangar, a new space industry funding show with that there. So yeah, we'll have to see how it goes. By the way, someone, I can't remember, I don't know who it was in our chat room, they asked if there are any aerospace companies that have oh, it was Loopy. Okay, here it is. Here's Loopy's question. And it's a good question too. And Dutta, we may need your expertise for this one. Same with you, chat room, and Dolly as well. Here's the question, perhaps. How many aerospace companies have come back from the dead? Vector supposedly did, but then they died again. And didn't Firefly or one of its peers come back from the brink once? So, and I want to say that Firefly did.
The way I understand Firefly is that it was like Firefly something industry, like Firefly Space Industries or something like that, something along those lines. And then they went bankrupt, and then the brand was brought back, but it was a different legal entity. It's Firefly Aerospace now, so it's a different company, but it's just the same brand and same idea and that kind of thing.
Yeah, and Hyun Win there also saying SpaceX was on the brink. Yes, they were. They absolutely were. But also they never went out. Loopy's very much pointing it out that they didn't. SpaceX never went out of business. They were able to get through it and catch with it. That's a nice one, Bennett. Pampalak is saying OneWeb. Didn't OneWeb die and then come back as well?
OneWeb filed for
Kinda.
bankruptcy, but they never They did file for bankruptcy, but they never disappeared. They still existed, they just didn't have any money left.
Well,
Okay.
it is possible to file for bankruptcy and still operate if you can find funding, come back.
Mm-hmm.
You just have to make sure that all your debts are paid.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, there you go. That's how it works. So, yeah. So I guess we'll see what happens. No clue if where Virgin Orbit's assets will end up at, or anything like that. So, but yeah, I'm really sad.
Hopefully in the hands of an angel investor who will send them back to work.
Yeah, that would be
Back
cool.
to space. That would be just lovely. I want somebody crowding Rocket Labs from up underneath. Get him out of the small launch market, make him push into Neutron so they can push into Falcon 9 so that they can push Elon to frickin' get Starship going. And, everybody moves up one notch in size.
And then all of a sudden Blue Origin announces, or Blue Origin shows us the footage of Neil Armstrong landing on Pluto,
There you go.
which actually happened 2 months ago.
Yeah.
So,
yeah.
yeah.
But they won't tag us for the next 3 decades.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But it was all embargoed.
Yeah, Arvale, that's a really good one there, which is a rising tide raises all rockets. Yeah, I spaceflight industry is a really interesting one because we're all kind of rooting for each other because everybody's one success is everybody's success. We all look good when one of us does something really nice.
Yep.
So it's really, I feel like, the only industry where you're going to find that most of the overarching feelings are that we really do want as many people as possible to succeed with it. Even your competitor a little bit with it as well. So, yeah, it's going to be really, really fun. And yeah, Adam Baker saying that Neutron is going for $50 million a launch now. So, we're gonna,
What's his name? Astra CEO Chris Kemp. He didn't agree. He had a little feud with Peter Beck on Twitter. But after that was all settled out, I don't know if you can find the link to that. I thought that was very funny. Big up Peter Beck.
I appreciate Astra and what they're doing and their scrappiness and their idea that you should put a rocket in a shipping container, send it anywhere in the world, and it should be able to fly. But also, you gotta I don't know, stop putting your customer payloads in the ocean. So, I mean, that's just my opinion on that.
Yeah.
So, I mean,
I heard from somebody on a live cast that there's 1,000 ways for it to go wrong. So they've cut down several,
okay.
and they'll get to that one the right way if they keep it going well enough.
Okay, excellent. Well, I'm glad
That's
to hear.
probably way too snarky. You know, I got serious props for these people. If I'm making it sound like they're not, no, that's not what I'm thinking.
Yeah,
Please continue.
By the way, I just want to point this out here, which is that none of us talking about this have an aerospace company.
Right.
So
Right.
who are we to cast the first stone? We're walking naked around the glass house, if you will. Or wait. Anyways, yeah, we're just a bunch of yaks talking about
I am
space
throwing
flight.
stones in glass houses.
Yes, exactly. So that's.
I will just say though, Virgin Orbit, if you are watching, right, if you don't need Cosmic Girl anymore, I can find a field. I'm happy to take her on. No issues, okay?
Wait, you have a place?
Don't worry about it.
You have a place where you could store a 747?
Well, I'll just find a field somewhere.
Oh,
okay.
okay.
Okay. Well,
I don't have
there
a
are a few
field.
details left.
I
then.
live in the countryside. I will find a field.
Okay.
TBD.
Got it.
Here. I like this one. Q Burning Man. Yeah. That's it's very true.
How dare you?
Yeah. Well, I mean, come on. That's kind of how it goes. Very good stuff. Yeah. Pretty cool. So, what else we got? So, do we have a super chat?
Yes.
Yes,
Oh,
an actual
I'm trying to
super
get
chat.
it, but
Thank
chat
you.
keeps moving.
Yeah, stop it,
Stop chatting.
Arvale. You're funny, Arvale. Yeah, I'm
If
sure
you
the city
shoot
of
a
LA
gun-
will do that.
If you
Okay.
shoot a gun during a spacewalk of the moon, will the bullet escape orbit?
Ooh, that's a really good question.
Now, when you say at spacewalk at the moon, do you mean orbit or on the surface? I do know these numbers off the top of my head, by the way.
Okay, why don't we do both?
Okay.
So, since American Loyalist is asking a really cool question here.
I think it's about an 1,100 meter difference, meters per second. So if you're, so I think circular orbit would be about 1,100 meters per second, which would make the escape about 1,600 meters per second. So if your gun could do 500 meters per second, you could shoot it in the direction of your orbit and have it achieve escape. 500 meters per second is about Mach and a half. So not a 9mm, but a 223 definitely.
Okay.
Now, if you were on the surface, the fastest gun I've ever shot is still too slow
Okay.
at about 1,200 meters per second, and I'd need 16.
Gotcha.
And
Okay.
that was a target rifle.
There you go. All right. Dolly, our wonderful guest joining us and contributor joining us too today. You're welcome.
Yes.
Things that you've always wondered. There you go.
Vax is absolutely correct that the escape velocity from the Earth is 11 kilometers, and from the moon, I think it's about 1,600 meters.
Yeah. Jacob is asking about recoil. Would it depend on the recoil? And I don't think you're going to have to worry too much about recoil in space.
I think as long as the gun and the U mass enough more than the bullet, then you won't be accelerated enough to effectively reduce its muzzle velocity by an important factor.
Yeah, I was about to say that too.
But
boy.
that's an important point, which is how fast would you start spinning if you shot a gun in orbit?
Are you on center or off center of yourself when you shoot it?
All right. Well, I'll tell you one thing. We have reached the American portion of this tomorrow episode. Yeah. So, in case anybody's wondering what's going on here, I have no idea.
We're just doing somebody's math homework for them at this point.
Yes.
Stephen
yeah,
Thompson. If a train gets busted at 9,
Yes.
Yeah.
By the way, I really love to do people's math homework and check people's math. If you want me to do math, I'm happy to do that. It's something I enjoy.
Yeah, and American Loyalist actually saying correctly, too, the Soviets had a space station that fired a gun, and they did. Yeah, they sure did. One of their salute stations had a machine gun, and they actually did fire the machine gun while in orbit to test it.
Just in case the aliens show up when you're not expecting them.
Yeah, that's a good way to describe Americans. So yeah.
Did they shoot it up or down?
I don't know. I actually legitimately don't know.
I would hope that they would shoot it backwards along their orbit in a retrograde direction, so that all of the stuff would not make space junk.
Loopy is saying, what if we put the Paris gun on the moon, the big German artillery that was so big they had to run it on 2 sets of train tracks? It's
well, first of all, we need to construct 2 sets of railways to the moon, which would be quite difficult considering it keeps moving.
Yeah. And I got to say too, if this is an American effort, you have no idea how difficult it's going to be to build a railway, period.
Mm-hmm.
So just throwing that out there. So
my memory is that gun was shooting like almost to the Kármán line.
Mm-hmm.
And if you were going straight up at Mach 3, you get about to the Kármán line on a bounce. So at least have an understanding it's about Mach 3 plus whatever the horizontal, which isn't enough in the case of that moon thing.
Yeah. I was just about to say, the other day I was talking with somebody about something called Project HARP, which is a high altitude research project. And they used a 16-inch naval gun, which I've pulled up a quick little picture of it here, which by the way, they took 2 16-inch naval guns, stuck them together for I think it was 40-meter long gun here, and they shot a projectile up to the highest altitude that we've gotten a projectile from a gun to, which was 110 kilometers. And they were doing that mostly for high altitude research, hence Project HARP, High Altitude Research Project. It was done down in Barbados, which is the easternmost of the Caribbean islands. So that way they could fire it to the east and work with it. And Gerard Bull, who's the head of that project, actually wanted to make space guns. He wanted to make these huge cannons that would actually allow you to deliver payloads to orbit cheaply. That was his whole goal with it. Problem was that he couldn't get the United States government to really fund it any further than his Project HARP shots that he had gotten out of that. So he started to go to other places like Syria and Iraq and get funding from people like Saddam Hussein, and it kind of didn't end well for him because he was eventually assassinated in 1990 because a whole bunch of people were like, no, you really don't do this, we're very serious about it, and he was like, well, whatever, and then they did it. So I know that we're like joking around here, American loyalist, with that really great super chat. Thank you so much for that. But people have actually thought about doing this and have attempted to do it, and I guess technically have fired a projectile up on a suborbital flight into space. So there you go.
One missing piece of the report for that?
Yes. Do you have a...
You'll have to wait like 30 seconds for the stream to catch up for this.
Okay.
It's a good joke.
Well, okay. I'm waiting on it.
Okay.
What's going on? I missed it. Is it...
An image has been put on screen.
I can't see. I don't actually have the stream on in front of me this week.
It was a wasted joke there.
Yeah.
I'm sorry.
Watching at home, I get to see Ryan. I can't see Ryan. What's up with that?
So I know it's okay.
We usually have a TV set up, but Jamie has
We'll
confiscated it for Jamie's bits.
Yeah. And then also, as you can see here, Raziel is saying, is SpinLaunch actually going to orbit? And I mean, that's the goal. I think they are.
Not soon.
I don't think it's going to be easy, but I still think it's so crazy it has to work.
It's so freaking cool, but there's several easier ways to get to the same result.
Yes, but we do it not because it is easy, but because we thought it would be easy.
Oh.
So
with a lot less G's and about a 3-kilometer evacuated tube, I could just do a linear throw, Get the same speed.
Get that too. Yeah, that's the Gerard K. O'Neill way of doing it. The High Frontier.
Yeah.
Get a mass driver.
Yeah. I
with
mean,
it there.
at less
That
than
and
2
Gundam
Gs,
as
I
well.
can get to Mach in 3 kilometers.
So
Yeah.
yeah. And actually, Headcrab makes a really good point here, which is that being smart could kill you. Yeah, I bet SpinLaunch. Bennett is saying, I bet SpinLaunch will really hit their stride on the moon. And yeah, I think Jamie and I have discussed this at length, which is that it definitely works a lot better for a place that doesn't have an atmosphere. With it there. Also, but I also just want
The only problem is it's quite difficult to test it in a place when you don't have an atmosphere. Like the only place you can test this is Earth, and Earth has an atmosphere. So to test it working not in an atmosphere, you need to be able to give it the capability to work in an atmosphere. It's a very tricky thing to solve. You're making a solution for a place you can't get to before your solution's made.
Just imagine how much cheaper their development costs would be if we had a society on the moon already. They wouldn't need to worry about all the infrastructure of, drawing a vacuum and sealing their chamber and.
Yeah, but it's really big and it spins really fast and it throws it really hard, and
does.
that's cool.
Just start flinging stuff.
So you're also going to need things like solid state electronics and other stuff to handle those forces, I would imagine.
Yeah, that is just telling history, and things happen when they can happen. The iPhone happened when it could happen, not before. The steam engine happened when it could happen, not before. And when we get to the moon, we'll be able to start doing that stuff cheaper.
Yeah.
And everybody will be going, wow, in the last generation, this got 10 times cheaper. And that'll keep happening.
Yeah.
It's just a different thing.
I was just thinking about that the other day with TVs.
Oh, yeah.
Like, I remember, 10 years ago, a 90-inch plasma TV was like $1 bajillion. And, now I could go get one for a couple $1,000. So, if even.
Just something like that.
That thing.
Oh, my God.
Yeah. Who knew? Who knew? So, yeah. Yeah, it's pretty funny. Yeah, Raul saying at that point maybe a railgun would be better. So I'm not sure. So, I don't know at that point. So
I intuit that a railgun is easier on the payload.
Yeah, because you can gradually.
It's not having to withstand a whole bunch of G for a short time.
Yeah, and you don't have to have a short rail gun either.
Right, but that's the question.
Yeah.
Does the SpinLaunch, because of its compactness, end up being the better solution? And of course that's everything to do with what's the construction costs and what's the difficulty for the raw materials and everything else. There's got to be a window in which it is good.
Well, that's part of the problem is that with a railgun you have a linear acceleration, so you have basically 1 G down and however G's forward you want. And especially with like a maglev railgun or something like that, you can control that very precisely. You can control the spin rate very precisely, so that you're controlling the forward acceleration, but your down force. The force that you're generating in a downward direction is going to increase basically exponentially with your speed until the point of release. So it's not going to be having to sustain that for a short period of time. It's going to have to be able to sustain that for a balanced period of time with the force that you're accelerating it forward with, right? You don't just go from 0 to 3,000 RPM in a heartbeat. How fast can you do that? And you have to balance that with what your loads are capable of in your downward direction, so that once you yeet it, it's going in the direction and velocity you want. Yeah. Again, data is good. Data is wise. Mm-hmm. So as always, there, data with the breakdown, the good stuff. American Loyalist, another super chat. Thank you so much. Asking, did the shell from the Paris railgun hit the common line at 100 kilometers or 80 to 83 kilometers, depending upon who you ask? Mm-hmm. But I don't think so. I don't think it was capable of that. I want to say it wasn't quite at that point.
I'll probably get curious enough and find out. And if you want to know, check us on the Discord. I was
just about to say I'm jumping on here on right now and trying to see if I can find it. So because I want to know too.
I'm already too curious.
So-
even if I don't get to report it.
You need what? Muzzle velocity and projectile mass?
Yes.
Well, I'm also looking for the height because they probably had a maximum upward angle.
Yeah. I have no idea what that maximum angle would be either, so we would have to figure that out.
Yeah.
So
Loopy says via Vax the muzzle velocity was 820 meters per second, and Zapfan has said 130 kilometers range, so it would have been close anyways.
yeah, I'm looking at it right here, and actually the Wikipedia article says 40 kilometers was the maximum altitude that they would do.
That sounds right.
Because obviously they weren't shooting upwards like
Right.
the Project HARP
Oh.
guns were.
Right.
They were shooting for range, not for altitude. So
Exactly.
So a bit of a difference in
Yeah, I need basically Mach 3 in the vertical
yes.
component to get
Yes.
to get to the Kármán line in rough
Yeah,
numbers.
which makes sense because if you watch something like Blue Origin's New Shepard launches, they're hitting Mach 3 vertical.
Yeah.
At one point. So
Yeah.
but right before they shut down. So
It's Mach 3 from the ground if you don't have any air.
yes. And then if you have air, you should put some material on the front of it to handle that heat. So
Yeah.
You only need Mach 3 on the ground?
Only in very round numbers. I'm speaking in sloppily round numbers.
Because like Blue Origin's New Shepard they reach a maximum velocity of Mach 3 vertically, but they start off at 0 and they accelerate gradually.
Sure.
And firing out of a gun, your highest velocity is at the moment of shooting the gun.
Given that information, I'm probably very wrong, and I promise to do my homework and report.
All right.
well, I mean, we'll figure it out. That's the cool thing
Yeah.
about this.
Oh, yeah, totally. And I'll make a spreadsheet and have people check it.
Yeah, and a standard M is also reminding us, which is that Mach as a measurement for speed is relative to atmospheric density.
Sure.
So yeah, that's very, very true.
In very round numbers, I'm thinking 340 meters ish.
Yeah.
Or a third of 1,000 meters.
Yeah.
Really round numbers.
Somewhere around there. So yeah, I personally cannot hit those kinds of approximations in my head. So I'm not even going to try. So Zapfan saying that 1 kilometer a second vertical in vacuum. Continue, please. Is that our answer, or?
I think I'm getting a confirmation that was at least my round estimate being maybe confirmed. And of course, we'll check and be more careful.
Yeah. Wow. Okay.
Okay.
Yeah. That's okay. That was a heck of a tangent. Thank you, American loyalists. Everybody's learned
Newtonian
today.
math.
So,
Oh, that's always fun.
Newtonian physics. It's great. But it's also wrong. Anyways.
Oh yes, Newtonian math is definitely wrong, but good enough for me.
Yeah. Hey, if it's good enough for developing flybys, it's good enough. All right. Yeah. It's standard M is reminding us all, which is that orbital mechanics are hard.
Yes,
They really are.
Yes, indeed.
So, orbital mechanics not even really well understood until the early 60s. So it was really tough with that. So
It was not really
In case
well
you wanted to
understood by me until Kerbal.
yeah, it's hard to comprehend these things when you don't have a direct means by which to experience it.
And I've gotten so good at that,
Yeah.
I'm now frustrated with Kerbal for not doing Lagrange.
Is that in Kerbal 2?
No.
No?
not yet.
They don't have it in Kerbal 2 either?
No.
Wow.
Kerbal 2 doesn't have thermal physics yet.
Wow.
Yeah, Kerbal
Wow.
2 is still well behind, but I don't even think they'd planned to do that. If they would, oh please,
Wow.
please
Wow.
allow me to do Lagrange.
That's
Home.
yeah, Kerbal,
Sorry.
you got to step it up. You got to get the Lagrange points. If you don't put those points, how?
How else am I supposed to do a low energy trajectory and get the free launch to the moon? Come on.
Yeah. Hello. Some of us want to enjoy the physics of it all.
Yes, indeed.
So yeah. Yes, Loopy. Which is that it took Buzz Aldrin literally doing the math and writing the book on Rendezvous to figure it out. Yes, and by the way, that's how you guys doctor it.
Yes.
So yeah. So that's Dr. Buzz Aldrin to you.
Yes. Dr. Buzz.
Yes. What else we got to talk about this week? Because there were still a few things that were going on.
There was I don't know if you've got it there, but a Soyuz came back to Earth that was uncrewed.
Yeah, and I've got
a Soyuz which got a bit toasty on entry.
Yeah, just a little toasty. I just pulled up this photo of it, just because I was really amused with how it looked there. So I thought that was funny, with all of these ways of writing on it. It says, my favorite is that they've got Russia in Russian and then Russia in English there. And I also like man inside help. And then there's the steps.
Take the key.
Yeah, take the key.
Open the hatch.
No, there's a second step there, Ryan.
There is.
Put
take the
into
key
hole. Then open the hatch. And I'm honestly,
how are you meant to see that if the hatch isn't open? If the hatch isn't open, though.
So this is. I imagine this is the parachute, the top of the capsule.
Yeah, that makes sense.
So, which honestly, how would you be able to see that if the capsule landed upright? But then again, how often do Soyuz capsules land upright? I don't know what the over under is.
Well, they land upright. They just fall over at a later point.
Well, that's what. Ryan, that's what I mean.
If they don't land upright, the cushy rocket doesn't work. It's pointed.
Yes.
There's a pointedness to the cushy rocket.
Yes, they do have to. Yes. Okay, so they initially land upright.
Yes,
and
they
then,
might roll and
then physics takes over at that point and does its thing. With it.
I love that ring uses key inserts and slotted screws.
Wow, that is. Yeah, that's an astute observation there, Dutta.
Do you think that was a mistake in the meeting? Can you think of good reasons why you would do that?
I have to imagine the key inserts are for the adapter ring or locking ring. Mm-hmm. Maybe. Like, are those the key inserts with explosive bolts in them? Maybe.
Possibly.
But I am sure the slotted screws are just leftovers from, Cold War.
I need somebody who knows a lot more than me. Hey, Loopy.
Yeah, Loopy. Calling Loopy into the chat. So, wow. Yeah, that's... Dutta, you're really good at seeing things like that. So, good job. So, that was a beautiful, beautiful catch.
It's kind of my job.
Yeah. I wonder.
Well,
Yeah, I know. I'm sorry. So I'm trying to be very nice. I'm sorry. I'm really sorry. I'm sorry. All right. Okay. But yeah, the Soyuz came back with nobody in it. So
the man inside help is a lie?
For this one, it is, yes. So.
Well, I mean, for the launch, there were 3 men inside. For the landing, they decided that it would be too hot to have men inside that needed help.
In a boat.
So did it survive re-entry without any issues? Like, it was all their fears were all for naught?
To my understanding, what I've been seeing like thrown around on the internet, which it isn't always accurate, but it sounds about right. Because of the leak with the coolant system, the interior from provisional data in the Soyuz reached about 50 degrees. That's Celsius, by the way, not 50 degrees Fahrenheit, whatever that is. I don't care. Stupid measurement units. Anyway,
122 Fahrenheit.
I mean, that's
122 Fahrenheit for all of you uncivilized people across the Atlantic.
That's survivable for a couple hours.
Yeah, I've spent a whole day in 120 Fahrenheit. What are you talking about?
Go to
I know,
Lake
but
Mead.
Jared,
Piece of cake.
Jared, you didn't spend that literally cramped person to person inside of a spacesuit, unable to move inside of a Soyuz capsule.
That's true, but I had a lot of water, so I think if I had some water to drink, I think I'd be okay.
Don't they have the coolie tubey suits?
So
As long as it's a dry heat.
yeah, I was gonna say, I think with 3 people inside, I don't think it's gonna remain a dry heat for very long.
No.
Actually, no. If it's a dry heat, your body has a hard time at some point developing enough sweat to cool yourself.
Oh, you know what? I was gonna say that is something that I did notice when I was sitting there in the desert in 120-degree heat, which is that
that's when you die of hypothermia.
Yeah, and I noticed that I really didn't have any sweat.
Hyperthermia.
I noticed I didn't have any sweat on my body, and that's when I was like, oh, 1, I need to drink water.
Yep.
2, I'm going to go get a towel and pour some water on it and put it over my head and my back. So,
but don't their suits have the tubey coolie bits on them?
oh, the cooling undergarment?
Yeah.
Oh, I don't know. Do you still cool?
I'd imagine that was, I don't know. Firstly, I don't know. Secondly, I would assume they're hooked up to the spacecraft.
I would assume it's the same as Dragon, where they've got umbilicals going into the suit and can
maybe
pump and then maybe open the. If the pressure is normal, they can open their visor and it'll pump air out past. I don't know. I'm so speculating.
That's an interesting data point, though.
I'm hunting to see if they have it.
Adam Baker in chat says that the cooliness is only on their EVA suits, which they have on the ISS.
Yeah, so that would be the Orlan suits. So, yeah. So, yeah, it would have been a hot return there. So, no thank you. I'll pass on that. So, I don't think I'll come back in the broken air conditioning Soyuz.
Good.
So, I'll get the next one. So, by the way, can't do Crew Dragon.
They're not that
either.
expensive, right?
I don't think so.
Yeah, it's like just like a bus.
Exactly.
Missing a plane flight.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I can reschedule it.
Yeah.
With no cancellation fee. So
They come every 6 months. It's fine.
yeah,
6 months.
yeah, every 6 weeks.
Oh, well, that's
6 months. Just 6 months. Just 6 months out.
That's a big difference. 6 months versus 6 weeks. I don't know. Can I wait that long? Am I?
Yeah.
If you let me go to space, I'll wait years.
By the way, I just want to remind everybody that that you can't just take a person and their seat from a Soyuz and their so-called suit and stick it in a Dragon. Likewise, you can't take a Dragon IVA, intravehicular activity suit, or SpaceX IVA suit and stick it inside a Soyuz and just be okay. So it's a little how we describe it?
Square peg in a round hole?
Square peg in a round hole, but also like real. So
Yeah, real.
So yeah, so that's kind of how it works.
The key does not fit the lock.
A SpaceX-sized shaped suit peg in a Soyuz-sized shaped suit hole.
Yeah.
That's kind of how it goes.
Somebody needs to make an adapter.
Yeah. Yep. So, what was? Oh yeah, this is why they had to pull in the Apollo 13. Yep, square peg in a round hole. Yeah. With it, Jacob Richard saying that you would think the SpaceX suit is smaller and would fit, but I don't actually know if the SpaceX suit is smaller than the so-called suit.
And also, the seats in Soyuz are molded to the so-called suit. It's not. I know that. I know it's just the liner that's molded.
It's a hard landing.
It's designed for that suit. Yeah, and you're like, if you look at Dragon seats compared to Soyuz seats, they're really like this really in Soyuz. However, Dragon, or at least it appears that the crew of Dragon spacecraft have a lot more room.
Yeah. By the way, I'm pulling up some footage to show you what it's like inside of a Soyuz is landing or during landing. So is everybody ready for this? We all ready to enjoy this? Here we go.
Yeah, go.
Take a look at this.
Is that Samantha Christopher Lee?
that doesn't look particularly comfortable.
Wow.
So,
Like
and
a
yeah,
car
that is
crash.
Samantha over there on the right side, with that there. She seems to take the brunt of the jets and the rockets, and then the landing, and then it rolls towards her side as well after landing. So let's look at it one more time.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, that does not look comfortable. Ouch.
Yeah.
Man.
Don't have your tongue between your teeth.
I think the airbags should have gone off.
Yeah, actually, I think there's if I recall correctly, there actually is a system underneath the seats that moves them. That's why you see the seats move, is to kind of help absorb some of that shock.
So what you're seeing is the soft version of the thwack. The softened
Yes.
punch in the gut.
Yes, I love this one from Vax Headroom here, which is that Doug Wheelock described it as a really bad car crash. It's just true.
But if it's one you can walk away from, it's fine.
Yes.
Yeah, that's right. Any landing you walk away from is a good one. So, right? So, but also like, ouch, that really does look
It's
like
an
it hurts.
optimally designed car crash.
Yes. Yeah, it's not designed to stop you from crashing, but it will help you in the event of a crash. So,
No, everything in there is
And Stephen
optimally-
Thompson has another good point, which is you get to go to space. So you win some, you lose some.
yeah, that's a good point. So,
Everything in there is optimally designed to help you survive the car crash.
Yes.
which David is then saying, except after 6 months in space, you can't walk. Well, I mean, if your car crash is bad enough, it may take you some time to walk after it as well. So I'm just saying. So,
Is that going to really be a big problem if we're going someplace and it takes a long time to get there? Will we not be able to walk when we get there?
Oh, absolutely. That is something I have thought about for Mars missions, which is that if you don't have some form of artificial gravity, I feel like at a crewed Mars mission, it's not going to be like Apollo 11 where they landed and then they were like, hey, can we just move up the moonwalk? I feel like they're actually going to have to allow the astronauts to spend maybe a month reacclimating to gravity before they will allow them to go out again. So
let's hope the launch window for return is a long time then.
Yeah, well, I feel like the idea of go to Mars and stay and wait for Earth to pop back around is kind of becoming the thing. We're not going to do the Martian where they are doing a surface day, a very brief surface day, and then spending a lot of time coming back.
Sure.
Because that ship is big, it's got artificial gravity, and those are all very big engineering problems that nobody's really wanting to tackle because money. So, yeah. Aravail has put so somebody in there said that the astronauts coming out of the Dragons look fine, and let me tell you, they are still getting assisted to come out of the Dragon and still being assisted to walk around.
If you watch the recovery of the ISS crew flights, they're getting pulled out of there on stretchers.
Yeah.
If you think back to like Inspiration 4, though, that was like what, a 3-4 day mission.
Yeah, you're fine.
They walked out of there fine.
Yeah.
So yeah, it's a massive difference. Like 4 days compared to 4, 5, 6 months. There's a massive difference in how you'll be able to react when you arrive back on Earth.
Yeah, I even want to say even a couple weeks in space, because the shuttle astronauts would typically walk down the stairs or go in the crew transport vehicle and go somewhere and then kind of walk around after, with that. But I've seen a couple videos of astronauts kind of fainting as they come back and they kind of readjust to gravity. So it's once you get past a couple of days in space, it's kind of when it becomes a little bit of a problem. So, yeah. Stephen Thompson described it perfectly here, which is they're walking with 20 medics around them. And then also Jason putting out a very good point here too, which is that the astronauts get a hell of a lot of exercise on the space station, and they still have to get assisted out of that there. So it's just difficult. Yeah. It's really difficult. The human body is not designed for microgravity, and we willingly put it in that environment, and we have to trick it, and it's hard to trick it. So
I'm real interested to find out how small a radius we can stand, whether something like an end over end where we take our the last booster we were using and throw it on a big cable or something. Is that
Yeah.
simple enough, or do we need a wheel? How big do we need full G to be helpful, or would fractional G be enough if we something?
Yeah. I feel like even with the moon too,
Yeah.
right? Like coming back from the moon, if you spend a couple months on the moon, coming back to Earth, maybe you're going to, I'm pretry confident there's going to be some sort of acclimation period,
Yeah.
with that there, right?
Putting a gyro on, not gyro, sorry, putting a merry-go-round on the moon itself
Yeah.
wouldn't be
let's
that
do it.
difficult because it's really easy to raise the G. You can't lower it.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's the problem. I can't lower it without increasing the spin rate of the planet, and that's a little energetically expensive.
One interesting idea I've seen proposed is that the only part of your spacecraft that you have rotating is the habitation area for your crew, basically where they sleep at. Have them sleep in 1G.
Oh.
And then, because you spend a third of your life sleeping. Well, you should be spending a third of your life sleeping. If you're not, step it up. But
Sorry, Jared.
what's up?
Sorry, Jared.
I speak from personal experience too. But I thought that was really interesting. With that. So that they
Jamie's looking at you like there's no freaking way. Nobody could spend that much time sleeping.
Yeah. Well, I try to
Jamie
for my own literal
Jamie hasn't
sanity.
slept that much in a decade.
So, American Loyalist, thank you so much for the super chats tonight. You're seeing some really cool stuff tonight too. So we definitely appreciate it. Which is a prediction for when we actually land on the moon again. Doubt it in 2025. It's definitely not happening in 2024. I could tell you that.
No.
With that. But I figure that might be a good one to kind of wrap up with today. What is everyone's idea or thoughts as to when we're gonna actually land on the moon? What do you think? Anybody got any?
Let's see. It's 5.5 hours until my local April 1st. So I'm going to say 6 hours from now. Okay, no, not that.
I'll go ahead and say I think it is going to be 2025. I think they will be able to pull it off.
I hope you're right. I was going to guess 26, but that's just me throwing a dart on my own intuitive blackboard.
Yeah, and I just want to throw this out there, which is that I always love being wrong about these kinds of things.
Oh, especially in the sooner.
Yes.
Yeah.
If it's later, then well,
Hey, as long as it happens.
So yes,
Yeah.
exactly.
I'm gonna roll with peaks and pokes before this decade is out.
Yeah. Hopefully that's broad.
I certainly hope so.
Okay. Somebody needs to write this down.
Yep.
So write these down. Ryan?
I'm going to go out and say the second half of 2025 at the earliest.
Okay. NET H2 2025. Okay.
That would be. I suspect 2026. However, I'm gonna remain hopeful for 2025, considering that would be like over 2 years from now. That seems like considering what's been happening over the last 2 years. I think that's a lot of time for some development to be happening with the HLS lander and Starship and SLS's next flight and so on and so forth.
Yeah. Aravail has a really good one here, which is that I love Starship, but I don't see any way they've mastered refilling and putting life support on it by 2025. I think that's super important to remember, which is that we are also that landing is also at the mercy of SpaceX and Starship. So, So because of the
at least there's no entry
system.
reheating on the moon.
Yes, there is that. So, but yeah. And then also Aravail, I feel like the life support is a very good point to make with that there. But I'm still going to be an optimist and keep I already gave you my answer as an optimist. So there you go.
It seems like the refilling thing definitely has some physics to be worked out there. So we got to demonstrate some, moving of fluids between tanks in a thing. But life support, we have that.
Yeah. Well, I just want to say.
Why not grab the guts out of a dragon and stick it in the nose of? Doesn't that just work? No, you can't.
Different.
You can't take the life support out of a dragon and stick it in a Starship.
No, I don't think you could.
You need an exponentially larger volume.
Yes, you've got a significantly larger volume.
So I'll have 3 of them.
Yes.
Okay, now that was too simple.
It doesn't scale like that.
Oh, okay,
I
thank you.
wish it did. With it. Well, one thing we got to make sure is that the toilet works.
Yes.
So it's going to be up there. Do you think it'll be like the
Starship's so big you can have your own cubicle. You'll be fine.
Yeah, I
Don't
was
worry
gonna
about the toilet.
I was actually going to say. I was actually going to say, could it be like an Airbus A220 where it has a window in the toilet? So the only problem is on the Airbus. Most of the time, all of the time, the window or the toilet's built in the wrong direction and the window's behind you. So where's the fun in that? So
Well, how are you meant to have a toilet on the aisle side of the door? That's where the door is. You can't put a toilet there. And you can't just have the toilet face the other way by the wall because then you can't get on the toilet.
sacrifice a row or two.
This is a 0G environment. You could put the window in any direction.
Yeah, look, all I'm going to say is on the space shuttle, which I have, having been inside of the mock-up, the original OG mock-up of the shuttle, the toilet is right next to the hatch, and there is a, albeit small, but there's a window on the hatch. So if you're going and you're doing your business, you can take a look at where you're doing your business above. So just throwing that out there. Just throwing that out there. What have you got? Dolly, what are you doing?
It's too much.
Okay. All right. Dolly's good. Well, that's definitely a first here at Station 204. Let me tell you. I hope Dolly read the instructions. So we're going to go ahead and wrap up on that bombshell. We're going to wrap up with this here. We want to thank all of our members. And we'll send patrons. This is where I'm at. Thank you so much to our ground support members. If you would like to become a member of Tomorrow, you can head over to youtube.com/TMRO/join. And that's right. You could sign up right now. As you can see, I'm trying really hard to work through this with our suborbital members right here. Thank you all so much. It literally takes 99 cents to be a member. That's all it is. And those are our system support members who you're not seeing on air, but hey, we still love your support as well. And you will get access to things like our post show, which we're going to be doing very, very shortly here. We've got our orbital members as well. Thank you all so much for helping out on that front. And our post show, we talk about really interesting things. We might go more in depth into some things we talked about in the show that we can go in depth about. Or other things like that in our member stream. Last week we had a very spirited discussion about toilets, actually, with that. So it turns out it's all just a little bit of history repeating. There's also our escape velocity members as well. These folks, they actually get access to our special escape velocity Discord channel, and you get to see horrors that you would not imagine. No, I'm just kidding. You get to see all of our jokes and other things like that in our escape velocity channel. It's almost like direct access to us as well with that. So thank you all so much, because we've also got one more left, which is our Tomorrow Model 33 Plaid Pro Plus member, Neurostream. Neurostream, thank you so much for being our Tomorrow Model 33 Plaid Pro Plus member of Tomorrow. And once again, just a reminder, if you would like to become a member of Tomorrow, head on over to youtube.com/TMRO/join. That's one way you could do it. Literally 99 cents a month. 99 cents a month. It is literally like a quarter of the cost of a cup of coffee. That's it. That's all it takes. And you'll get in immediately to see our member stream and a multitude of other things behind the scenes with it there. So I want to thank all of you who helped make the show happen today. We got Dutta over there in the control room. Dutta, thank you so much. Ryan, thank you so much for doing such a great job talking about SpaceX and everything today. And of course, Dolly Juggling Lessons joining us live in person here today on Station 204. And I'm Jared. Glad to have you here, as always, with our show. We're going to head on over to our member stream now. So I'm going to be here next week. Anybody else going to be here next week? So you? Okay.
As long as I'm welcome.
Yeah,
we'll see.
Sure. So, Ryan?
I should be available next week.
Dada?
Quite possibly.
Quite possibly. Have you got something to do?
I don't know yet.
Oh, okay. All right. So, bye, everybody. Thanks so much. We'll see you in our member stream. Bye. Bye.
I'm going to press the button. I press the button. I press the button.
Press it.